So I've been gone for a few days, and that's because, contrary to my best wishes meaning that's what I wish. Oops, here he comes. Contrary to my fondest wishes, I've actually had to work. So that means sitting at the same computer, dictating pleadings and calling my enemies and cajoling and begging people and so on and so forth. So now I'm back. And I'm only back because I made the mistake of turning on Fox News today. And why do you turn on Fox News? Do you watch Fox? Well, kind of. I mean, I sort of channel surf all these channels: CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I listen to other channels on the radio. I don't get my information from the internet, but I do watch these cable channels. And I just can't believe the stuff I hear on Fox. I mean, they just say some of the damnedest things, and it's one of the reasons we've got so many people. 50%, according to the latest poll, 50% of the American people support Donald Trump for president. Has this country lost its mind? This guy's committed more felonies than Al Capone, and 50% of the people want him to be our president. Excuse me, I didn't mean to get off track there. It's just some things get my blood boiling, and speaking of boiling, I wanted to talk about this climate situation. So I'm watching Fox News, and some clown is on there talking to Bill Hemmer, who is his own clown show. And they're saying, well, to this learned person with no apparent credentials, what does he think about all this news about the temperature, and how does that relate to what you're hearing about the global warming situation? And I'm watching this thing here, interested to see what he has to say. Are these people finally going to concede that there's a global warming problem and try to get on board with some of the problem? No, disappointed again. So this little round-faced fat guy says, well, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm finding that more and more things that I have been told over the years just aren't true. And I'm starting to realize, now that I'm approaching old age, how many of these things you just really aren't true at all. And he says, I'm approaching 50. I spit out my soup and my teeth. I said, approaching 50? Are you kidding me? I can't even remember when I was approaching 50. I can't remember yesterday either. So that's a... You know, George, I love having you here. I know you're a congressman from Long Island, and I appreciate you being here, but I don't appreciate your constant sarcastic remarks, okay? I'm not that old. I just look that old. Okay, so... what was I saying? I don't even remember. Oh yeah, I was saying that I don't remember anything. How could I forget that? You think about that a little bit, George, especially you. I can see you look puzzled, but that's okay. So, I was approaching 50. He's the wisdom of the ages behind him. Approaching 50. That means he's in his 40s. Now, no offense to people in their 40s. I've known some very smart people in their 40s. I was very smart in my 40s, I think. I don't really remember. But you don't have the wisdom of the ages behind you when you're in your 40s. And he then proceeded to prove that. Because he says, they've been telling me all kinds of things about global warming, all these disasters they said were going to happen. For example, and I think this was what he said, I'm not 100% sure, but this was the example, that by now the Maldives were supposed to be underwater. The Maldives! And the Maldives are not underwater. Therefore, there's no global warming. This prediction didn't come true. And then there were some other, catastrophes that were predicted that haven't come true. Therefore, there's no global warming. And of course, why wouldn't you say that? Unless, of course, you happen to walk outside, or in case you happen to look on TV and just happen to notice that our planet has the highest temperatures ever recorded, or if you just happen to notice the wildfires in Canada, or you just happen to notice that the Florida Keys have water temperature above 100 degrees, and guess what's happening? The only coral reef in this country is dead because of global warming. So, wow, this is, I hear people say, well, how do we know it's man-made? Well, people who say that are basically people who are telling you they've never taken junior science when they were in grade school. Or junior high science, I forget which one it is. I didn't do that well myself either. But anyway, that's beside the point, and I don't need your personal criticisms, George, or the rest of you either for that matter. I hear you out there. So I'm going to give you just a quickie course in why men are causing global warming. And forgive me, all those who already know this, but there are a lot of people out there who just don't. And they just hear the term, they don't think about it, they don't analyze it, they don't have any basic science background at all. And so they just they can brush it off or not brush it off. They really don't know what it's all about. So here's what it's all about. It's all about carbon dioxide. Now, what's carbon dioxide? Well, carbon dioxide is a byproduct. When you burn gasoline in your internal combustion engine, it's carbon. That carbon then mixes with oxygen. That's how it burns, and then it has a byproduct, which is carbon dioxide, which is an inert and not poisonous gas. And carbon dioxide normally floats up to the air and then gradually dissipates into outer space, where it becomes the problem of Martians and things. And who cares about them? I don't. Those people don't. They're not people. They're beings from another world, and who cares what happens to them? I certainly don't. So maybe you do. I don't know. There's a lot of bleeding hearts out there. So that's what happens with carbon dioxide. It goes away. It floats away. It disappears into the atmosphere. Except if there's a lot of it, and the force of gravity keeps it from escaping. And then what it does is it forms a blanket. It's an invisible blanket. You can't see carbon dioxide, but it's there. The force of gravity holds carbon dioxide above the Earth, and when there's tons of it being pushed out there every year, all over the planet, that stuff becomes a blanket that just surrounds the Earth. And it acts like a greenhouse. Well, how does a greenhouse work? Well, it's pretty simple. If you've ever been in one, they get pretty hot. Why? Because the sun comes into the glass panes in the ceiling, hits the air, and warms the air. Normally, if you don't have a glass ceiling and it comes in and hits the air, like if it's just outside, the air heats up and then it rises and then it dissipates. But in a glass house, that comes in a greenhouse, which is a glass house, the sun comes in, it heats the air, then the air rises until it what? Till it hits the glass, and then it stays there. It's trapped. And then it stays there, and more sun comes in, and more sun continues to heat that air, and the air gets warmer and warmer and warmer. That's what the carbon dioxide does. Think of it as a glass panes encircling the globe. So the hot air that's created with the sun, when the sun comes down here and hits the air, that hot air goes up and it hits the carbon dioxide and it stays there. And then more sun comes down and more hot air goes up and it stays there. Now, some of it will eventually dissipate, but when you start putting in more and more faster than it can dissipate, then you end up with an ever-increasing temperature, and that's what we're having now. This is like Jor-El in Superman, when Jor-El was telling the world, his planet's council, that, hey, there's comets coming here, we better do something, we better start making arrangements to get our people off the planet. And everybody else said, oh no, you don't want to cause a panic, you don't want to, that could disturb business. That could disturb the oil industry. That could eat into their profits. That could make them unpopular. We can't have that. We better go find the Republican Party and give them a bunch of campaign contributions so they constantly run interference for the oil company and act like people like this Cortez, congresswoman from New York. I don't always agree with her on everything, but she's one of the sponsors of the Green New Deal. And boy, the Republicans just love to sneer at that. Green New Deal. Like, yeah, a Green New Deal. They're at least aware of the problem and trying to figure out some way to solve it, and not always running interference for the oil companies because they give you big campaign contributions. That doesn't make you mad, then nothing will. Now, don't listen to the Republicans when they tell you they're for the little guy, because they're the ones who are running interference for the oil companies all the time, and they're the ones who are pretending there is no global warming when it's a real problem that you can see by looking out your window, or looking at TV, or looking at your thermometer, or just using common sense. It's a real problem. And we need to, as a minimum, stop pretending that it isn't, and stop getting people like this jerk on Fox News saying, well, the Maldives haven't been flooded, therefore say I in my infinite wisdom with no scientific background and not caring a whit about actual facts going on today. That's my opinion. Here you are, Fox News. Push this out to your millions of viewers so they'll all believe that the whole global warming issue is just a liberal hoax. It's not a liberal hoax, it's reality, and it may be that we've passed the point of no return. With what I just told you about how the earth continues to be heated, it's going to keep on doing that because it has no way of escaping. It's trapped by the CO2 in the atmosphere. And I'm afraid that, 20 years from now, when I'm long gone, people will look back here and say, 2023 it was when this whole thing, we reached the tipping point of no return, and that's when there was the beginning of the ability of the planet Earth to sustain human life, or animal life either, for that matter. So, there's no guarantee that this planet is going to continue to function the way it has been for the last, few 100,000 years, few million years, there's no guarantee it's going to continue doing that. It's our responsibility to take measures to make sure that it doesn't. And we are killing ourselves. We are committing planetary suicide with this carbon dioxide going in the air. So, sorry for getting excited, but man, listening to these morons peddling ignorance. So, don't listen to them. Don't believe them. When you have people tell you that they're skeptical and they're sneering at the people trying to stop global warming, relay to them what I just told you about what's causing it, because it's not a mystery. It's not a science. It's not made. Oop, there he is barking. Well, I gotta go then. Sorry. Bye.